You shout it loud, but I can't hear a word you say. Talking loud, not saying much. I'm criticized, but all your bullets ricochet. Shoot me down, but I get up. I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose. Far away, far away. Ricochet, you take your aim. Far away, far away. You shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium. You shoot me down, but I won't fall. I am titanium.
RSE is a global sex education curriculum. It's being rolled out throughout the world and already is in place in many countries. We must not let it take hold in Pembrokeshire or Wales. Although the Welsh Government have signed up to it, I don't think they knew entirely what they were signing up to. It has its foundations in research conducted by Alfred Kinsey back in the 1950s. Now, Alfred Kinsey set up the Kinsey Institute, and it was basically a cover for his own sick, twisted perversions. He conducted tests on babies through masturbation to prove that babies could have orgasms. He used convicted paedophiles as research fellows as well to back up his evidence. This is wrong. It's inappropriate. There's no parental opt-out, so the schools will be teaching your children all sorts of disgusted and things they shouldn't really be learning as children. Let kids be kids and let them grow up as children. So where did RSE come from, and what is the rationale behind it? Back in the 1950s, Alfred Kinsey was commissioned by the United States government to research on child sexuality. Basically a paedophile, he set up the Kinsey Institute with money from the government. And there he used convicted paedophiles and babies as experiments. He was a very sick individual trying to legitimize his own actions. He argued that babies could have orgasms and incest was quite normal. He physically took part in his own sick experiments and involved convicted paedophiles.
Too far. They are also very concerned that parents can no longer teaching of RSE. I've been contacted by many concerned parents who feel that the proposed new curriculum is a step too far. They are also very concerned that parents can no longer opt their children out of such lessons. Thousands of parents rightly believe that sex education starts and ends in the home, that those parents who want to teach their children developmental sex and relationship education should be free to do so, and that the children can opt out of RSE lessons. Much of the concern and outrage has been centred upon the materials shared with me by concerned teachers that will be shown to children as young as 4. A 4-year-old is still a baby in my eyes and should not, under any circumstances, be taught about sex and masturbation. Let's let children be children. Concern has been rising in recent weeks, and we need a statement by the Minister to categorically state that RSE will not be compulsory and certainly not taught to children as young as
County Council's Respect Yourself team introduces 6- and 7-year-olds to rules about touching yourself. I recently spoke to a mother in my constituency who was distraught that her 6-year-old had been taught about masturbation in school. I spoke to a mother who told me how her 11-year-old son had been shown a PowerPoint in a lesson on sexuality, setting out characteristics and behaviours and asking children to read through the lists and decide if they were straight, gay or bisexual. Prepubescent 11-year-olds.
Let's take a look at the current situation regarding RSE in Pembrokeshire. Nobody has even raised it. Nobody seems concerned. 2 years ago, I raised it with the Director of Education and the Cabinet Member for Education, Mr. Guy Woodham, and I got the response which I was really expecting, that it's all misinformation and everything is lovely and there's no such content that I'm describing within the curriculum. How wrong were they?
It starts with
one thing, I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to explain in due time. All I know, time is a valuable thing. Watch it fly by as the pendulum swings. Watch it count down to the end of the day. The clock takes life away. It's so unreal. Didn't look out below. Watch the time go right out the window. Trying to hold on to didn't even know I wasted it all just to watch you go. I kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to be will eventually be a memory of a time I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. One thing.
Not so long ago, our children went to school to be educated, not indoctrinated. Reading, writing, arithmetic. When it came to the thorny topic of sex education, it was traditionally a teacher's job to equip children with the basics to allow them to stay safe from unwanted pregnancies, sexually transmitted diseases, and sexual predators. And whilst most parents were happy to leave the birds and the beads stuff to the teachers, sex education wasn't compulsory, leaving some parents the choice to opt out. However, in the new hypersexualized culture of 21st century Britain, a perfect storm of fear and opportunity has arisen. A new wave of activists and sex-positive liberals saw an opportunity not just to educate and inform children, but to sexualise and radicalise them. Unbeknownst to many parents, our children's education has become riddled with unproven, unscientific, radical sexual identity politics. The declaration of pronouns is enforced with rigour. Rejecting biology in favour of gender theory is the new normal. Exposing ever younger children to complicated ideas about sexuality is becoming an imperative. In particular, PSHE, or Personal, Social, Health and Economic Education, which includes relationships and sex education, RSE, has become a horror show.
Sex education is a good example. That used to happen in secondary school. The Conservative government for some reason pushed through RSE as a replacement for sex ed, and now we have relationships and sex ed all into one bracket, which means it's being pushed further down into primary school, and we now have primary kids being taught about masturbation, which I think is inappropriate, and I think most parents would. But this is the slippery slope, isn't it? There's no age appropriateness anymore.
There is a section entitled Touching Myself. The Daily Mirror refers to part of a lesson plan where it encourages people to tickle or stroke themselves. The Mail on Sunday criticises them for not using the term masturbation and referring it to self-touching. One of the authors actually claims that children will always self-stimulate. And he goes on to say it's all very normal as long as it's done in private. That lesson plans will include discussing masturbation with their teachers in primary school. Wales Online, normally a left-wing echo chamber, have actually published an article on RSE in Welsh schools. This is already in the classroom in Scotland and England. Let's see how it was received there. In Wales, there is still some hope that this can be stopped.
Schools, the menu is even more X-rated, as pupils are taught about anal sex, facial ejaculation, and bondage.
Many parents are starting to ask questions at school, and the schools are saying we cannot share the resources with you because they are under copyright and we're not privileged to share them with people. First of all, that's a lie. To share the resources with a parent is perfectly acceptable, and any school that uses copyright as an excuse not to show parents what they're teaching their children should be questioned further.
Each and every parent, if they go into their school and they ask to see the PSHE or the trans inclusion across the curriculum, they will find their schools to be evasive. And that should frighten each and every one of us. Because if you don't know what your children are being taught, how on earth can you say that you are a committed parent to the safety and well-being of your children? You just can't.
But the area of greatest concern should be the now widespread practice of schools teaching children about LGBTQ+ and trans ideologies. This is Miss Beaver, one of the performers involved in Bristol's drag queen story time. And in Paisley, a drag queen named Flowjob was invited to read books at Glencoates Primary School. Following a parental outcry when Flowjob's highly sexualised social media history was uncovered, SNP MP Mari Black, who was with Flowjob at the school event, lashed out, accusing those with concerns of, yes, you guessed it, homophobia. Mari said she completely applauded the school for putting on such a great day. Last summer in London, a Labour council invited a rainbow dildo butt monkey to host children's reading groups in libraries. Drag Queen Story Hour, which does exactly what it says on the tin, has now become a huge growth industry in our schools. However, the apprehension of having drag queens perform to young children is also shared by some drag queens themselves.
I have no idea why you want drag queens to read books to your children. I have no idea. A drag queen performs in a nightclub for adults. There is a lot of filth that goes on, a lot of sexual stuff that goes on. And backstage, there's a lot of nudity, sex, and drugs. Okay? So I don't think that this is an avenue you would want your child to explore. Would you want a stripper or a porn star to influence your child?
And then you just move your bum up and down like that, and that's twerking.